taking everything out of this box because I built one of these bikes before, and when they ship them to you, all the parts, some of them can come in all broken, and like for instance the gas tank will be dented or you're missing hardware. So I'm just looking over and making sure I have everything and making sure that everything's accounted for. Luckily, the gas tank wasn't damaged, but they usually always come damaged. So right now I'm going to take off the transmission, and I'm going to see if it's a single chain or double chain. You want the double chain, you don't want the single chain. Unfortunately, I have the single chain, but I'm going to take the opportunity and put more grease in the transmission. I've heard stories about people with the single chain transmissions and the single chain snaps, and it can bind up, or it can even break out of the transmission. To prevent that, I'm going to just grease it up and baby the heck out of it. So, like I said in the previous video, these engine kits are really poor quality. The quality control is non-existent. So you're going to have a lot of threaded holes that aren't going to really line up, especially with the gas tank. When you put the petcock valve on, it didn't want to thread on. Luckily, I got it to bite. But because of the poor quality, you really want to baby these engines. You don't want to rev them like crazy, especially when you're breaking them in. Yeah, these engine kits usually come in with damaged parts, so you definitely want to take everything apart and look at them, especially that gas tank. That gas tank's usually always dented up. Luckily in this case it wasn't. It was a miracle. So since this bike is a single crank, the diameter of that bottom end is a lot larger than the crank came in the engine kit. Because of that, it won't fit in that bottom end, so you need to get a European bottom end bracket. Because this engine is pretty wide, you need a wide crank, and with that wide crank, it will allow you to use your foot pedals, and it won't hit the engine as you're pedaling. So I had to get a European bottom end bracket, and right here I am installing it. I'm getting one side on first, making sure it's flush on the end, and then I'm going to go ahead and put the other side on. just a little bit on the other side to get it to bite, because those screws that come with it don't reach. So I had to kind of press it in a little bit just so the screws can reach the other end. And so when I'm tightening it, I'm just going around tightening it little by little just to make sure it doesn't screw on all cockeyed. And again, this is going to allow me to use the 3-piece wide crank that came in the engine kit. And again, I'm just using the grease that I have on me right now. I don't have, you want to use marine grease, but I'm just using what I have, which is just this standard high temperature grease. Now the piece that I'm screwing in, you want to make sure it's real tight. Well, not real tight, but snug. If it's real tight, you won't be able to crank over because it's pressing down on the bearings. So you just want to get it snug. Now, if you do have a 3-piece crank, I'd recommend using the bearings that you have on your bike already and the bearing holders, because the one that I'm putting on right now, there's a little bit of play in the crank axle, and I think that's probably really just the quality of that piece. Since I don't have a 3-crank piece, I'm just using the one that came in the kit, so I'm not sure if that's just the crank, if it's just a quality problem, but there is a little bit of play in that crank. And this piece just goes on, there's a taper on it, so the more you tighten it, the more it bites down. And this just locks that sprocket into place. So I'm installing the crank arm. They are lettered, one for the right side, one for the left side. You want to make sure you put them all on the right side, the right arm on the right side, and the left arm on the left side. And again, all this came in the kit. You don't have to worry about having to go out and buy this in a separately. Right now I'm taking off that coaster brake lever, and that has to come off because the sprocket goes on that side. Now here's one of the major problems that I run into. That brake arm, it won't fit. Well, it fits, but the bolts are going to snag on it, and so you're going to have to bend it. These bolts that come in the kit are garbage. They have those little flange pieces on the end. I think they're supposed to be lock nuts, but they have instead of the nylon lock nut, they use the flanges. The problem about using those is when you go to take them off, they bind up in the threads, and you won't be able to take them off. You'll bust the bolt before you can take the nut off. So I just end up throwing them away and using the nylon lock nuts. So I really recommend just going out and getting your own hardware. Don't use their hardware or the hardware that comes in that kit. And so I'm cutting these rubber inserts, these rubber gaskets, so I can get one of them behind the spokes. It's the only way you can get it behind the spokes. One of them goes behind the spokes, the one goes in front. And you pretty much just sandwich them on the spokes like that, and you put your sprocket on. I'm surprised the sprocket's not any bigger. I was kind of hoping the sprocket would be bigger, because personally I think the sprocket's a little too small for that wheel, especially with that size of engine. You do get some really fast top end, you get high top end speed with it though, but at the cost of you're going to put a lot more stress on that engine. So I bent that brake lever arm, and I kind of grinded down on the other side just so I can get some more clearance. That's the end of this video. I'm going to be posting another video where I'm mounting the engine and everything else. See ya.